Good morning again, everyone. I think we've got a few people just dialing in just now, but I'm keen to kick off just because we've got the next hour to with myself and Ollie to go through the managing complaints in housing session. This is a bit of a follow-on for those of you that were involved in the last session around customer services, ASB, and complaints. This is a bit more of a, dare I say, a deep dive and a focus on complaints specifically. So thank you for those who were in attendance last time. And following your feedback, we've gone into a little bit more detail this time. Um, so just on the topic of complaints, hopefully all you guys can see my screen. I just wonder, just before we get into it, and I suppose to wake everyone up, aside from the breakfast packs that some of you may have received, um, I just thought I'd ask the question and get you guys thinking before we get into some of the core demonstration about the last time you had a complaint about something, how it was handled, and how that made you feel. Whether you know you sent your dog away to the groomers and what you thought you were going to get wasn't what you were going to get. Uh, the chicken soup was slightly different to what you thought it was. You can see my terrible sense of humour. Um, was very poorly equipped. Or did you work for a large supermarket who decided that competition, or the dare I say sacred Colin the Caterpillar wasn't able to be emulated in the same way? So it's really important this morning that when we go through the demonstration, we're thinking about actually complaints as a topic, but not necessarily positioning complaints as just a bad thing, and understanding how we can leverage Microsoft technology to actually, in housing, really leverage the experiences that customers are having and turn quite quickly positive negatives into positives. Um, so in terms of today and what we're going to go through, um, we've just got a few slides just to set the scene and set the tone, and then Ollie's going to walk us through some of the Dynamics 365 technology and some of what we've created within Crimson in what we call our housing accelerator, which I'll talk you through a little bit later. So who are we? That's a picture of me. You'll notice wearing different clothes. That time a suit, and that's Ollie also wearing different clothes and a shirt. So we your hosts for this morning, and for those of you, I think some of you have joined who familiar faces. So great that thank you once again for joining us again for another one of these sessions. Those of you that this is your first session or first introduction to Crimson, to put simply, we're a Microsoft Gold partner, and we really, help organisations, certainly housing associations, myth bust some of the problems that you guys face, particularly around customer experience and actually leveraging Microsoft technology, whether it be Dynamics 365, Power Platform, Power BI, Power Apps, Office 365. How do you use those tools to actually solve business problems and get closer to your customers? And most importantly as well, how do you use those tools to empower your colleagues and the teams within a housing association to actually, do more, and allow the individuals to actually have better systems and processes to be able to execute better experiences for those customers. So a little bit about us, who we are, what we do, and some corporate headshots which you might be interested to know. We're only recently taken, so we've got no excuses for age weathering us away. So perfect. So I think most of you who are on the call, will not be surprised that actually why is complaints so topical at the moment. That there's a lot of white papers out there, notwithstanding the Charter for Social Housing Residents one, which and regulation that's coming into the sector, most importantly, which talks about what I suppose new service levels housing associations should be providing to the sector and to its customers. And it's I think it's why certainly we at Crimson, as one of the focus areas, have really tried to look at how potentially can you leverage technology like Dynamics 365 and the Power Platform to drive better experiences. And again, let's not forget that your colleagues, your peers within the sector, are also, dare I say, customers of your own organisations. And as I said earlier, it's really important that we don't see that as an oversight, and that the teams on the ground who are serving the customers and providing that service around complaints are empowered with the capabilities, technology, and have the agility to be able to move with the times as things like new regulations and new standards are set by the organisations and authorities. So I think that's really, really key. Um, you know, and of course, we all know tenants and customers calling into whatever touch point, whatever area within a housing association. I know, because this is about complaints, I think the majority of you will be coming from, customer services backgrounds. But it's really important to understand that I think, when we talk about complaints, um, complaints obviously happen directly into complaints teams and customer service, but of course um, are really can happen at any touch point with you guys as a housing association, whether that's neighborhoods, um, going out and seeing customers directly, working with perhaps vulnerable tenants. So it's really important that we understand and provide that, dare I say, tool set and mechanism to allow the customer services teams, dedicated customer service teams, to actually deliver the best service, but also recognise that potentially what is required across an association is a holistic view and a more of a scaled platform that can allow for multiple different touch points coming into one area. So, complaints aren't always a bad thing. Some of you might disagree. We don't think so, because actually, with a complaint, as some of you may have remembered, negative experiences that have been turned into a positive. And whilst it can be, challenging and put, you guys on the back foot, there really are ways in which complaints can be handled in such a way to be able to turn a negative experience into a positive experience. And we're hoping some of the technology that we're going to show you today in allowing and empowering the colleagues using things like workflow guided processes to be able to actually move complaints through processes efficiently, will allow associations to do exactly that. But one thing to worry about, and often what we've seen when we've talked to a number of housing associations, is the technology that we're talking about today. In our opinion, of course, it is, because we're Microsoft heads, is the easy bit. I think that there's three aspects when we at Crimson talk about managing complaints as an aspect, and it comes down to three pillars. And you guys may have felt this in your organizations today. The system will enable colleagues, but it's just as important that you as an association, and from a people perspective, have the right culture and approach to be able to instill the values within the individuals about how you manage customer services and how you would go about handling complaints. And the second is processes. Actually, the system and the technology can automate and workflow and drive some of those the complaints engineering. But have you looked at a certain amount of time about how your complaints process works? Has that been reviewed or benchmarked in the last 2, 3, 4 years? And actually, is that streamlined? More importantly, does everyone in the complaints team or across the association have a good understanding about what that looks like and what you'd expect as a standard from a process? So I think feeding into the technology and what you'll show today, and what Ollie's going to show, is some examples, some themes. But obviously, the beauty of Dynamics is you can kind of do what you want with it. So that's why it's so important to be clear up front about what your processes might be, and how you leverage the technology to drive improved processes surrounding complaints. And this is just Microsoft as a disruptor into the housing association sector. Have obviously come from private sector backgrounds and looked across a numerous industries, and because the platform Dynamics 365 is dedicated around customer experience and customer engagement, they often work with organisations, research organisations like Forrester, Gartner, IBM, and what they'll do is look at customer services and customer experiences across the board. And these are just two interesting statistics about, the ability, this is out of sector, but the ability of customers, willing to pay more for that better customer experience. You can see there that's a vast majority. And this, actually the second point is about technology being an enabler to reduce the cost to serve, and using technology, whether it's to diversify and do things like channel shift in customer service, focus on different channels, and reduce costing contact center, or whether it's simply streamlining the process and reducing the amount of time that individuals through workflow are spending on complaints handling, or the as I'm sure we've all seen it, those sometimes manual, not quite joined up batons that we virtually and physically pass to our team members day to day to complete a process. But I think it's obviously really important, that we don't lose sight of that, delivering a great customer service really does go a long way. So this just touches upon some of the themes, and it's really just when we share out the deck, just to kind of give you some themes. But it goes without saying, some of the things I've touched upon this morning gives you an idea of some of the actual aspects of driving and getting your people in the right headspace of what are our values around complaints, customer service, thinking about the actual processes and how you go to deliver those. And then lastly, which is what Ollie will talk about today, how do we enable the technology to hit some of these key fundamentals. So with that, I'm going to hand over to Ollie to be able to sort of walk you through some of the stuff with the Dynamics 365 solution. And yeah, thanks again for everyone tuning in, and I'll speak to you at the end. Over to you, Ollie.
That's brilliant. Thanks, Jordan. I think my my network is playing up a little bit, so I've just jumped off camera, hopefully to help me out. Can you guys all hear me?
Yes, mate, Ollie, we can hear you.
Yeah. Sorry. Yep. Okay. Brilliant. Okay. So today what we're going to go through is a couple of journeys just around the customer service management within Dynamics 365 and the Power Platform. Now, customer service management, for you guys that don't know, it's a module that allows you to sort of manage cases. This could be issues, these could be repairs. For these examples I'm doing now, obviously they're going to be complaints. The way that I'm going to go through this, I've got two journeys. The first one, I'm actually going to start off as somebody in the portal. So one of your tenants has access to a tenant portal where they can sort of try and communicate and try and get information from and send information to the housing association. And then the second one is a traditional email complaint with a little bit of a twist because of urgency. So I'm going to just take you through how the system and how the technology enables us to track, record, collaborate, and hopefully resolve these complaints in the best way possible. So first things first, I've jumped in as Alison, one of my test users. She's a tenant, and she's looking to raise a complaint. Now, the first thing is we have a couple of areas around the portal that Alison can use, but she doesn't really know the navigation of the portal. She doesn't use it very often, so she's going to go ahead and just jump up on the live chat and say hi. And she's going to get through to what we know as a virtual agent. Now, virtual agent technology is absolutely fantastic to enable better sort of communication and providing swift responses to your tenants, without anybody sort of having to be there behind the scenes. Now, what I want to do is I want to raise a complaint. Now, what's happened here is because it's a complaint, rather than going through some data capture on the virtual agent, what it's suggesting is that it's navigating suggesting me to navigate to my complaints area and go ahead and actually fill out and submit a kind of an official complaints form. Now, this is one of the options that I'm choosing in this demonstration. If you wanted to, you could enable virtual agent to capture that data in a conversational piece to say, okay, what is the issue? What service? Can you give me some more details? And what that virtual agent can capture all that information and send that into Dynamics. For this example, because we've already got a complaints area up, I'm going to go ahead and complete a customer complaint form that can be submitted back into Dynamics. Really straightforward one, bit of a blue Peter. It's around a rude staff member. The complaint type is a complaint. It's around housing and housing management. And it's a couple of details of the complaint. So when I actually go ahead and submit that information, what I'd be looking to do then is waiting for these guys to come back to me, whether it be an email, whether it be a conversation. It would then be up to the housing association to sort of try and initiate that process and communicate with me. Now, as an agent, I would actually be sat there as Ollie Sinclair on the contact center. I would actually want to have a look and try and find the cases that are coming in for the day. So what I've got up in here, for those of you not familiar with Dynamics 365, this is what the back end looked like from an agent perspective. And what I've got on here is a dashboard, and it's my case management dashboard. So what it shows me is a number of active cases, some of my recent resolved cases, so that I can actually have a look and go and find, some work to do and get myself allocated to one of these cases and try and help out what's going on. Obviously, you can see that the rude stuff that's come up on there. So if I was to double click onto that, I would actually be taken to what's known as a case form. Now, on the case form is really where you capture some additional information about the person. It would be about what the issue was, some elements around their tenancy, their unit that they're involved in, and up on here, what we've got is a business process bar. So the business process bar is absolutely critical for when you're managing or trying to guide your users through a process to get that quick resolution, or to get those guys to process in the right order. Now, what you can see here is that I've already identified who the customer is. I've got the case title and the reason for creating the case. Now, within the detail section, I've actually tried to attempt to make a phone call, and I've actually got through to them, and I've gained a little bit more information. Now, through this information, speaking to Alex, I've actually said yes. We need to escalate this complaint. So what we can see here is that a case, for example, could be anything. It could be an ASB, it could be a repair, it could be a specific element that's not related to case management. But once we escalate this to a complaint, what we do here is actually create a new sort of complaint record. Now, what we can do here is we can say, well, it was submitted today, and it was definitely a complaint, and the channel was over over the internet, which I've just lost the control for. What was the category? Well, we did say it was housing, and it was housing management. So once we've got this stage one, so an official complaint happening, what we would be looking to do on the phone is looking at what would be their preferred resolution, what would make these guys happy. And what we're going to say is, well, if we issued an apology, then that might resolve the issue rather than taking it to a second stage. So what we're going to actually do is make sure that there's the correct acknowledgement. So we can save this record and go ahead and print off one of our acknowledgement records, acknowledgement templates. And what happens here is that is just acknowledging the complaint officially and sending that information back to them. What Dynamics will do behind the scenes is pull off all of this information, and give us that template to send out really quickly, rather than having to type this out, rather than having to find the information. We can go ahead and have that template already completed for us. What we can do there is also, obviously, if you wanted to, you can actually attach to the complaint records and go ahead and attach that and say, so we're happy that that's all gone in. The really good thing about this is once you have all of your information here, you can see within the timeline all of the specific activities, responses, phone calls, elements internally or externally into this investigation, and really what needs to happen. And it's just the demigods are not being nice to me, but effectively you can add all of those information in there. So what's happening really with the stage 1 investigation? Well, we've sent the acknowledgement, and the response needs to be within a week. We've actually gone ahead because it was quite a relatively, we issued an apology. It's actually going to be quite easy to send the response to that one. So we're going to send it in the same day. And are we going to escalate? Well, I think we're on the phone speaking to Alex. We've actually said, okay, so the outcome that has actually resolved that. So what we're going to say is we're going to resolve that by issuing the apology has actually resolved that information. And what we can do is then go ahead and save and close that as a completed case. Now, one of the other ways in which that we can go through complaints is actually through more of the email side. So maybe you're going to receive an email complaint. And what we have here is we've got an email from somebody saying that they're actually raising a complaint. And the scary thing is in the title, we can already see that there's an ombudsman's reference. So these guys have already got in contact with the housing ombudsman for assistance in raising this issue. Now, a bit of a Blue Peter moment. I've gone ahead and seen that case from Alex, and I've gone ahead and found the fact that we've actually done a stage 1 investigation for Alex, and we've already issued an acknowledgement, and we've already the preferred resolution is fixing a boiler. I think Alex is very happy with that, and it looks as though we're going to need to escalate to the second stage. What you can also see here is there's some space around here for the ombudsman reference, and when Alex actually referred to the ombudsman, what we can do is go ahead and escalate to the next stage and start the stage 2, which is the review. Now, I'm sure you guys, for the guys in the complaints team, I'm sure you're aware that these are quite straightforward processes that you guys have to go through. You have certain responses and SLAs that you need to go through. Dynamics 365 is really brilliant with providing SLAs and being able to capture when things need to get done and give you guys the ability to understand that in sort of countdown timers and elements like that. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to supply a reviewing manager. So I know Adam is going to need to be the reviewing manager, and I'm not actually too sure when Adam can actually review this, but it's got to be really soon because it's already, we've highlighted the fact the ombudsman is already involved. This is a bit of an urgent one. So one of the new features that's recently come out, it is still technically in preview within Dynamics, but it will be coming to general availability very soon, is the ability to collaborate internally within Dynamics 365 using the Teams channel. So what I can see up here is, okay, well, I need to speak to Adam urgently because I need to set a review date for this. So I'm going to click this button up here, and actually Teams chat is now embedded within the case management element. So I've got a complaint, and I'm going to go ahead and create a new chat. I'm going to say help with a review. So I'm going to say Adam, it needs to be you. I'm going to say help with complaint. And what you can see here is before I start the chat with Adam, what it's going to do is it's going to give me the title, the channel, the complaint type, and when it was created on. So when Adam might not be in Dynamics 365, he might be on the road, he might just be in Teams, he might be in a meeting. If we actually start this chat, what happens here is I don't lose the focus of this case, but I can go ahead and start chatting with Adam. And I can say, and as you can see, what's happened is that chat's already added in Adam and myself, and it said, hi, can we chat about this? And we can see this information here. Now, from Adam's perspective, I'm just going to get the chat up now. So Adam might just be within the chat, and he's going to see all of this information. Now, what he can do is he can say, oh, okay, that's really interesting. That's a complaint. Ollie needs some help. I'm going to actually go ahead and view that detail. So he, outside of Teams, can directly jump into the specific record that I need help with, and he can actually see the complaint case and the complaint details. Now, all I need to know is what specific time, what date and time can you do the review, and I can start conversing with Adam straight away. He comes back to me. He said, actually, Ollie, I can do this tomorrow. Let's get on this because it's a bit of an urgent one. So let's crack on and do a review for Friday the 26th. Fantastic. That's all good. The case is the complaint is assigned to him. I've actually managed to collaborate with him straight away without a delay and getting a review date booked in with somebody for that. I can add in some review notes and said, review confirmed over Teams for review. Excellent. Okay. What I can then do then is crack on, and myself and Adam, we can have that review. We can have a look at all of the literature, the acknowledgement letters, all of the emails and the phone calls that related to that. We can jump back into Dynamics 365, have a look at the repair and see what was going on, see, talk to the engineer. We could spin up another Teams chat, see if we can talk to the engineer straight away and trying to resolve this as quickly as possible. And effectively, what we want to be doing is coming into making sure that we've got the right outcome, which would be that we spoke to Alex again on the review, and we said, we're going to give you £100 compensation, and we would be issuing that on the day, and we would finish that and resolve that as a complaint. So again, what we're trying to do is guide people through a process, enable the data to be captured in a sensible way, and reduce the navigation away from different screens if we can, by having the Teams chat preview collaboration, seamlessly moving in from a case to a complaint, so that if it's from the contact center and you have a specific complaints team, then that will all be linked through, and it will make it a little bit more of a seamless effort. Knowing that you've got the SLAs in there, what we're trying to do is keep up that resolving first time and getting that quick responses in. So that's really the major parts of the journey I want to sort of take you through. So those are the journeys. These are the ways that with the Crimson Accelerator, we can very quickly start creating complaint cases. But now you've got this really useful data. What do we do with that? What do we do with this data once we have it? Is there a way we can do some analysis on maybe the different types of cases, or is there something that we can glean from all this information? So what we've actually done here is we've got a Power BI dashboard that connects to our complaints data within Dynamics 365. And if the demo gods are being nice, it will show you a nice Power BI information around all of the complaints that have been raised this year. Yeah, crikey, I was a bit worried then. Okay, so what have we got in here? So this is a Power BI dashboard, relatively straightforward to create, and it is using a combination of the complaints, case management, and some of the general entities and records related to teams and categories and elements in that. So what we've got in here is that we've actually our average days to respond throughout the year is actually 7.5 days. So that's kind of within the 10-day sort of SLA that the Crimson Housing Association want to go through. So that's really, really good. But we'd want to try and reduce that down. So we want to have a look and maybe interrogate some of the data to have a look at how we can reduce the number of days to respond. Now, extending a case, which I didn't go through in one of those cases, which I probably should have done, if you have the ability to have an SLA of 10 days. If you know that you are not going to be able to resolve that, it may be that you can't get to the answers, you can't get to the people in time, you have the ability to extend that, and you can then have an extension date as long as that's agreed by by the tenants. But what we can do is, because we have the specific the due date and the extension date, we can calculate the average days in which cases were extended over the year. And what we can see there is we can see a graph that actually shows that information. And you can see from down here, you've got stage 1, stage 2, and the ones that have been referenced to the ombudsman. So there's a lot going on here, lots of cases, lots of issues being raised. That's probably more about my demo data than anything else. But what we can also do is start segregating this out into different areas. Say, for example, we want to specifically look at different teams and the breakdown of maybe the outcomes of these cases, of these complaints by team. So if we have a look, we're going to click on finance now. What you can see also behind the scenes using AI is a piece of functionality within Power BI that allows us to glean some information that you might not be able to see straight away. That's really that has some information withdrawn for finance cases. Actually, 35% of complaints actually were withdrawn. So whether that's the fact that something is happening in terms of the complaints either going to the wrong team, or there's a process in there where there's a lot of cases are being withdrawn, whether that's maybe trying to contact them. Is there something wrong with the channels that the finance are using? Are they just conversing through emails? Is that something that we need to tackle? What we can also see is that there is a lot of repairs as well, and actually, just under a quarter of those are partially upheld. That might mean that, yes, we've kind of come to an agreement, and that we've given them some elements. We've given some a refund or managed to refix it, and it's been partially upheld, which is really, really good news. What we can also do from an interrogation perspective is use those teams and categories in looking at average days responded and average days extended. So if you have a look down here, okay, well, let's have a look at finance's average days. Wow, okay, so that's we're going up 7.8 days with finance to respond. Does that mean they're busy? Is it to do with volumes? You can see that towards the beginning of the year, it was increasing, but then in June it went down. So we could probably try and interrogate why. What was so good about June? Was it the pure volume of cases are coming in? Looking at it, it doesn't look like it. It looks like there's still quite a few in there. So what was it? Were they simpler requirements, or somebody working really, really well in June, and we need to identify why that's so good, and conversely why September was so bad. We're 8.75. We're nearly up to that 10 days to respond part. So we really need to work out what's going on there. So this is just to give you just a brief overview of the type of things you can do with both Power BI and the data. Once you have it, you can then really start to interrogate this and use it as much as you can. So I think what I'm going to do there is probably just stop there and sort of that's really all of the demonstration for today. And obviously we've got a little bit of time for any questions or some additional conversations. So with that, I'll probably pass you back to Jordan, and we can carry on the conversation.
Thanks, Ollie. Perfect. So, from my side, what I wanted to, you guys can see me. There we go. What I wanted to ask you guys, and just I suppose open the floor to very quickly before we move on, and just talk to you about some of the things that we can do to help organisations and associations get involved. First and foremost, I know it can be quite scary asking questions on open forums like this with the volume of people we've got. But has anybody got any particular questions or challenges that they want to ask Ollie? One that we got last time was around the dashboards and reports. So I think we got asked last time around actually, could you use Power BI reports and Dynamics reports dashboards, and where would you use the two? Simply, you can use both. Both, obviously, as you've seen, can be embedded in Dynamics, and often we find senior leaders prefer and like to use the flexibility of Power BI, but for the day-to-day, the Dynamics 365 dashboards, which what Ollie showed you right at the start with the lists and the data, are often preferred by some of the users, but equally both can be used in different types of environment. So I'll apologise because I'm not sure who put the hand up first, but I'll go to Gemma first, if that's okay.
Morning, thank you. I'm Gemma from Platform Housing Group. I was really interested in the ability to collaborate internally with the Teams chat and embedding that. That was really interesting. But one of the things I wanted to ask, as Ollie will know, kind of like at Platform, we're on a journey, so different people are going onto the system at different times. So would it be possible where you, I think what I'm trying to ask is, if you were using that Teams collaboration part, where the person that you're collaborating with had the ability to click onto the case and view it, if they weren't, so like if they were a team that weren't on Dynamics yet, could they still have the ability to view the case in Dynamics?
Yeah, sure. Really, hi, Gemma. Really good question. So in terms of the licensing and the ability to click on, obviously this is just me as an administrator, so I can click on that and I can view the record, and it knows I've got a Dynamics 365 license. When it comes to this, you would be able to view the information if they weren't available. Say, for example, if it was an external team, maybe the engineers haven't got on to Dynamics 365 yet, but they want to see the record, the information about the case. There are multiple ways of doing that. Initially, straight away, you can have team member licenses, which allow you to have sort of read-only access to records, which is a much more reduced cost than a fully fledged Dynamics 365 license. What you can also go, because it's accessing through Teams, and Microsoft are really trying to have this sort of collaboration piece with Dynamics 365 and all of your data. Very soon, I believe you would be able to have using a sort of a window into Teams, you would be able to display Dynamics 365 data actually inside Teams. So it would just be a little snapshot of the case, and it would be able to sort of show them exactly what's going on for them to be able to interact with. In terms of the licensing, it is a bit tricky and it is quite fluid with Microsoft. They do change quite often, but for now, you would be able to do that through Teams access. But it would be a slightly additional licenses for those guys not on there.
Okay,
does that make
thanks,
sense?
Ollie. Yeah, thanks. That's really useful, because a lot of the time when we're preparing ombudsman files and things like that, it's really difficult to keep track of where you've had individual conversations with people. So that's a really good feature.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's one it's literally just come in on this wave release, the Teams collaboration element, and it's going to be, we'll see a lot more of this integration with Teams, vice versa, from the Dataverse and Dynamics 365. The more releases we get, the tighter this collaboration will be, which is really good news.
Thank you.
Thanks, Gemma. Clive, over to you.
Yeah, Clive from TAF Housing. Yeah, really good system. I like all the tracking and the reporting. We're actually considering sort of combining compliments and complaints with the same process, if that makes sense. Is there anything in the pipeline around that, or have you considered that?
Yeah, Ollie, I think I'll answer in one thread, and if I don't know if you want to chip in after that. One of the aspects that we're going to look to show in future sessions, Microsoft have released a tool called Customer Voice, Clive, which is again, like you say, around some of the more complementary aspects and also surveying. So doing what I would describe as your traditional stroke, customer feedback loop surveys. So, I think it's really important, like you say, to focus on, you'll see my tone that I set earlier around complaints aren't always necessarily a bad thing. For this particular, we absolutely, Dynamics gives you the flexibility to be able to combine the two, or certainly have filtered views for a certain individual to be able to use and look at the same sets of data in one place. But yeah, more than happy if you'd want as a follow-up to show you a customer voice, but b how compliments could a be captured, processed, and reported on through Dynamics, and potentially in combination with what we've shown today. So it's a good point, and happy to.
Yeah, I think it's from you start down this process, and then you start to think, okay, well, this is just about customer feedback, and then that goes even further that back from not only just customer feedback, is trying to predict what their future needs, or what their future would make them happier or sadder, to put it in simpler forms.
Yeah. One that this is it's so true, and also, like you say, it's not just about the initial complaint thereafter, is it? Once that complaint's been processed, it's about how do we manage those things and actually reflect on how that was processed. One of the things that Dynamics has or Microsoft have brought out now, just to very quickly bring up and show you, is their customer service insights. So again, apologies guys, because this isn't aligned to housing data, but Clive, as you've said, exactly that. So basically, as well as the Power BI report, this is a Power BI report effectively looking at Dynamics data, and is what Microsoft called customer service insights. But you'll see here, we're seeing, as well as Teams integration, as Gemma touched upon, we're seeing more and more embedded AI, as part of the application, as part of the roadmap. So here, it's looking at all of that great case data and pulling out key issues around things that are happening, and also things that might be positive or negative in terms of sentiment. So topics impacting resolution time, things that are taking too long, and have you considered automating some of these? And this then linking back to the survey. So if you then, as well as having your Power BI dashboards embedded within Dynamics, this obviously can extend all of those things out, look at the customer services, the channel shift, go and look at, I mentioned customer voice earlier, which we can touch upon in a separate session. How, what are you getting back in your customer satisfaction compliments? What feedback are we getting in the surveys? And to your point, Clive, what topics, using AI to actually drive out what topics, both from a complementary perspective and complaints perspective, is volume based. Clicking into those topics and then looking at those specific categories and finding out what the data tells us about those. So something we'd absolutely happily show in a separate session, and we can drill into.
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, to add on to that, yeah. So we had thought about compliments, and also just, I guess, general service dissatisfaction. There are times when customers, tenants don't want to go through a formal complaints process, but they're just saying, look guys, that wasn't very good, or I think you need to improve that sort of area, and it's really useful to capture, as you're saying, that sort of feedback, and making sure that we can do some analysis on that and make sure that there are recommendations and resolutions to some of this stuff. So yeah, very much that's definitely a journey that's
closing
really
the loop,
important.
because as we said, we get customer, your complaints are easy. People complain, and then you get compliment. Also, you get people asking for something, which isn't a compliment or a complaint. But we may not have that service, or and then we don't know how many people are asking for that. Surveys, and again, surveys feed into it. Anyway, yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Clive.
Yeah.
Paul, over to you.
Just one more thing on that. I mean, if you do have that data, and you are able to sort of publish a clean version of that, if you have a portal, you can actually have an extended a Power BI report on there that actually, when your tenants are on your portal, they can actually view some of your analytics and your reporting on, the feedback from everybody else. What's the general feeling of all of the tenants, so that they can get an understanding of that as well, which can be quite powerful. Yeah. Sorry, John.
It's all right. No problem. Paul, over to you, mate.
Yeah, thanks, Jordan. My question was around any integration. So we currently use our housing management system to record all our complaints, and it's quite clunky. And obviously, seeing that demonstration there about how simple to use it all was really good. I was just wondering if there's any integration into housing management systems, because we use our housing management system as our CRM. So we'd want if any integrations can go back into the housing management system, so anyone who's speaking to the customer can see what's going on and can see that they've got a complaint that's recorded in Dynamics.
Yeah, so happy to touch upon that, and again, I'll get Ollie to reinforce some of the points. You're right, Paul. You're no stranger to the fact that every housing association that we talk to about Dynamics will have some form of existing housing management system that will be doing invariably good, bad, and indifferent jobs across the housing association. One thing that I think I've talked about a lot in this sector is this idea that again, we're not completely bullish to the fact that we believe Dynamics and Microsoft have all the answers to every housing problem at the moment, right? And we also believe that I think one of the aspects or the challenges that housing try to solve is this single view of data, but that doesn't always necessarily mean one system to do everything, right? And some of our housing customers, Gemma's from Platform, who we work with very collaboratively, who are potentially, looking at and have been looking at replacing aspects of their existing housing management system. But of course, there is the ability to, have what I would describe as either a total replacement with Dynamics or a hybrid where, some of the potential back office stuff that housing management solutions do around your rents, the more mechanical, operational side of processing, can still be done with something like a UI layer, or Dynamics over the top, and integrating into that housing management system. Because you're right, having that fantastic workflow, agility, all of that great capability to your fingertips is important, but equally important to that is making sure that the data is reliable, is in line with and synced up with other departments across the association. So we use so yes, we've integrated with some of the key housing management systems, Capita, Northgate. Looking at we're just about to start an integration with Orchard. We've done Activate HMIS, so we've integrated all those, and we generally use Paul. We've created what we call, it's using Azure Service Bus, of course it is, because it's Microsoft Cloud integration. But we use that, and we've created a data integration framework. The good thing is we kind of, we know the differences and the kind of the data mappings now, having worked with a number of housing associations around what needs to be pushed where. But often the challenge isn't with can Dynamics and Azure Service Bus integrate with the others. It's generally the difficulty severity of integration is dependent on your housing management system's APIs. But generally, for examples like this, we've not had a problem with integrating that issue data, complaint data, case data, and aligning that to the master tenant record and customer record within your back office housing management system. Hopefully that answers the question.
Yeah, it's a really good point, Jordan. And just to touch on that, we do have a sort of a Crimson integration framework for those really heavy, integrations potentially to your housing management system. But from a technology perspective, It's also sort of worth having a look at the other integration points. I think I did a webinar earlier on in the year around data and integration and the options which you have. And again, from what Jordan was saying in terms of just because we have one system that shows everything, it might not be that all of the data is stored in that specific system. And there are a number of sort of tools and tricks that we do within Crimson to sort of aid that collaborative sort of sparse system that an organization would usually sit in. Anything from virtual entities to using custom connectors through the Power Platform and surfacing that up in a Canvas page within Dynamics, so that maybe it's some supporting information about a tenancy or supporting information about a person or a location. So there's lots and lots of choices, and it totally depends on sort of where, you know, what you've got in your back-end systems. But certainly Dynamics 365 and the technology it's a feature-rich sort of integration area. There's lots of options for integration, not just the Crimson integration framework, which is fantastic. There are lighter versions of what we can do in terms of integration as well. So just put that in there.
Yeah, I think Paul, and just to close on that, people do often, you know, Dynamics isn't necessarily whilst it's one of the newer solutions that have been around now in housing as housing management needs, it's not, you know, it's not like it's this newborn baby. It's been around a little bit, right? So we're probably at toddler stage. And what I would say is, you know, again, one of the things I've tried to talk to housing associations about is, you know, delayering the fact that, you know, this idea that, you know, you don't have to, you know, Dynamics doesn't have to be seen, certainly from the outset, as this one big juggernaut project that has to be, you know, replacing everything. Of course, that's potentially the end outcome that you might want to get to, but starting with, which leads me on to my next point, just to sort of finish this session, is around, you know, what we've encouraged housing associations to work with us more, and by the way, have been able to get some funding from Microsoft, is looking at specific scenarios and examples like this, where proof of concepts with something like Dynamics can be drawn up, proving out potentially, you know, an integration into your housing management system. For me, what Dynamics is really good at, Microsoft don't wake up in the morning and go, we want to build the best housing management system. It's up to partners like us to work with the sectors to make sure that, you know, the platform capability works in such a way and enables housing associations to do their job. However, what Microsoft do wake up and eat for breakfast in the morning is, you know, how do we make sure the technology platforms that we provide are always future proof, always up to date, are agile, are nimble, you know, are low skill of entry to be able to configure, tweak, change, be adaptive, embed the latest technology, AI, you know, moving parts, omni-channel, all these good things into one solution. But most importantly, how do we make the experience for customers as a customer engagement platform the best it can be? And how do we automate the solution to be able to be great for colleagues as well? So we, just to close on that, we work with Microsoft. They've got a number of initiatives. One some of you may have heard of or not have heard of, called Catalyst. And there is small pots of funding available to work with us on proofs of concepts, you know, specifically looking at things like complaints, customer feedback, and happy to share more information if anybody's interested around how you might get involved. But again, my view is, like anything good these days, is, you know, start small and then, you know, prove the value and let that expand. And if anyone, you know, has got any questions or would like us to, we run these probably every 6 weeks. We'll be running the next one in around, you know, Christ, will be in 2022 by the time we're running the next one. So hopefully some of you will be able to join us for that. But if anybody's got any views on any particular topics they'd like us to cover, let us know. We do run, as the slide suggests there, art of the possible sessions for housing associations around a number of different aspects, not just complaints. And if you, as well as joining us this morning, and thank you for being so kind for doing that, QR codes up in front of you. If you're able to just sort of scan these, leave us a bit of feedback, let us know if there's anything you'd like to cover in future sessions and in the new year, and any updates or any, you know, articles, new events, will be posted in our Crimson Housing LinkedIn page, which is the second QR code on the right hand side. With that, I'm conscious, unless anyone's got any other questions, which feel free to raise your hand, we can draw the session to a close. But thank you so much for everyone joining. We hope to see you in around 6 weeks' time, when we'll all be thinking about dieting, I'm sure, and you know, hopefully hopefully not too down about all the festivities that have passed. But thanks everyone, really appreciate you joining, and any other questions for Ollie and I, just let us know, and yeah, we'll see you soon. Thanks guys.
Thanks guys. Cheers.
Bye.
Take care.
Cheers. Thanks. See ya.